What is going on, everybody? This is Cinematic PhD here. It is my first video, of the channel relaunch. As you can see, this is going to be a tier list ranking video, and I've decided to go with the Friday the 13th franchise because that is the one that is nearest and dearest to my heart because I am from New Jersey, which is where the first one filmed. I've got a soft spot for the original, and I just love this series as a whole, usually for its absolute bonkersness. Now, I am going to be tier ranking all 12 movies, which includes Freddy versus Jason, because I mean that's part of the Friday the 13th lore, so might as well, go with that. So as you can see, I've given different names to the tiers. What would normally be S tier is top points of the franchise. A is Ginny for the best of the final girls in the series. There's no doubting that. I will not say prove me wrong because I am not going to use anything of that person. Next up is the Three Tommies, which while it's my favorite, I would put it higher, but I figured the best final girl will get the second from the best. All right, so next one, Carrie v. Jason. This one is basically ideas that could have been better, like good in idea, bad in execution. This is also kind of where that's kind of where that will go, especially if there was a better original concept that got denied. And if the movie, kind of does better than it should have given the circumstances. Dan enchiladas are the ones that I'm just like, okay, I know these are considered low points in this series by a lot of people, but they're just so entertaining to me that they are part of my lexicon when it comes to like watching sequels of the franchise. And then Jason Takes a Cruise. You'll be surprised that there's a chance the movie that this is the namesake for may not be in this category. But this is basically for the low points of the series, the worst of the series, because it's called Jason Takes Manhattan, but most of it's spent on a boat. We all know the joke. He's on a boat, mother F, he's on a boat. But yeah, that's kind of the F tier. I'm not doing them in order. I actually made the order a little as random as I could. You know what? Let me just randomize it a little more and move this one. There we go. All right. You know what? A little more. Okay. So I've got it. Not in order. Just I don't want to kind of make it predictable. So I've got it, kind of going this way now. Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. So it's actually this is a tough one because I find it to be my low point in the series for me because it's a little boring at times, but it does have some great side characters, and it. I'm gonna put this here for now because, like I said, it's the one that bores me the most of the franchise because a lot of the considered bad ones are at least fun. This kind of only has less fun sequences, like there's less of an emphasis on the fun side characters. And even when they're in there, they're not in there that much. And just kind of what's there is either a little drab for my taking or not well executed. Now, one thing that almost got it ranked a couple tiers higher, aside from Leslie Jordan being in it, is the fact that there's actually an a confirmed but not official for the movie tie-in with Evil Dead, which I believe Adam Marcus had mentioned that, and Sam Raimi even gave them the actual Necronomicon book to help kind of make that little Easter egg there. They could not get the rights to use the actual Kandarian dagger, which is why the dagger in the movie looks the way it does and does not look like the Kandarian dagger. That was a rights issue. I guess Raimi had the ability to use the book, but not the dagger. So there's that, and there's that. So I'm putting this there for now, but that may change. All right, next up is the final chapter. Now, this one I love so much. Like this is one of my high points in the series. Like this is probably the one of the top ones for me. do I put it in the top tier or do I put it one below? Let me like Joseph Zito directed it, and he's great with horror. He did The Prowler. He did multiple others. It's got Corey Feldman as Tommy Jarvis, so it's the first of the Jarvis trilogy. They brought let's see, they brought Tom Savini back for it, so that Savini could kill his creation, so to speak. So between Zito as the director and Savini as the special effects guy, the kills and that part is really good. It kind of gave it a little bit of a back to basics kind of thing after it's the end of the 3 day weekend, which was parts 2 through 4. So there's a lot important about this film. Um, Now, it is a great sequel. It's one of my favorites. It's not my favorite of the sequels. We'll get there. But it is one of the top sequels of this franchise, and legitimately a great film. You wouldn't know it by its approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but 80s slashers that are generally not, they're not, critics aren't very kind to those films. So, but this is the best of the sequels, or one of the, I should say, and it's one of my favorites of the sequels. So we'll put this top points of the franchise because I do think this is one that's deserving of being there. Next up, Freddy versus Jason. One of my critiques of also, I forgot to mention this during Jason Goes to Hell. It had the teaser for this film, but Jason Goes to Hell and the other one after that we'll get to just kind of felt like New Line dicking around until they were able to get this movie done. So Freddy versus Jason, the good and bad. Um, so I think it's a higher point of the franchise. You have Freddy, you have Jason. Um, it has Ronnie Yu, who was fresh off of Bride of Chucky at the time. So there was a lot as far as success goes, or as far as being good on paper for this movie. I did not like a couple things about this. I did not like the fact that they took out Kane Hodder, and there's no one really giving it an actual concrete um, reason of who's the reason. It's kind of become a blame game a little bit there. Um, so one thing I found out for this, one thing I want to point out, uh, one thing that I before doing this I found out Rey Mysterio Jr. was actually Freddy's stunt double for the boiler room fight, or for the layer. I don't know if it's the fight with Jason or if it's the killing of Catherine Isabel's character, but Rey Mysterio was actually Freddy for a little bit in this movie. It's you know it's got a pretty good cast, decent cast. Uh, some of the writing doesn't really vibe with me with the dialogue. Specifically, when Kelly Rowland calls Freddy the F slur. I know this was early 2000s. That was going to be something that was always going to be the case. It does not age well, not at all. It's got Lachlan Monroe, he's been in Night at the Roxbury, Scary Movie, The Predator. He's been in Riverdale and Charmed. So he's actually been in some good, like, he's been in the genre quite a bit. He's the one who plays the deputy. I liked him in that, actually. I liked him a lot. So he was also, oh, that's right, he was also in Totally Killer. And if I remember correctly, he was decent in that too. He was the father of the main character. So so again, a horror veteran, as kind of entertaining side character, the guy who comes in and sorry about that, guys. The guy who comes in and basically, um, sorry, the guy who comes in is like, hey, no, this is not what you think it is. This looks like Jason from Crystal Lake. Like the new guy who's trying to tell the rest of the police department, no, this is not who you think it is. Um, And actually, RIP to Chris Gauthier. Speaking of, he was the guy, the heavier football player who doused Jason with beer and made the deliverance joke or made the redneck joke to Jason. He did pass away about a month or two ago, so RIP to him. I just wanted to get that out there. But yeah, it's got an overall decent young cast. it's okay. I know Jason. It had Jason Ritter in there. It had um, who else? It had I know Zach Ward, who from A Christmas Story. Scott Farkas actually was the older brother of the one character for like 1 second, playing the brother in a in a bathtub. So like that's interesting to me. So it had a fun cast. Like it was very much an early 2000s horror movie in the vein of a Bride and Chucky feel to it, Bride of Chucky feel, which is part of why they hired Ronnie Yu to begin with to do this film. And I just I think it's fun. I think it's very fun. I don't think it's the best of the franchise. Um, so my question is, do I put it Carrie versus Jason or the Three Toms? Because it's good for what it is. A little bit is dated. I love the soundtrack. Fun fact: I actually heard the soundtrack for the first time because at the time I was actually um, a metal director at a radio station, and I actually was in contact with Roadrunner Records, so I got that pretty quickly. And that soundtrack for like early 2000s is a banger. So I will put it. I'll put it 3 times. I liked it. It's not one of the best. It's kind of like close to the middle to me, but it was fun. It did its job, and I credit it for doing so. All right, Jason. Jason Takes Manhattan, or as I've called it, Jason on a Boat. So it's not a good movie. I admit that. It was a fun movie though. Like it was weird. There was a lot of weirdness going on. I'm tempted to put it on Chase and Takes a Cruise because that's that the namesake of this category is that. But it'll go one step above for now because it is still entertaining. It's bad but entertaining. Like it's definitely a so bad it's good in a way kind of situation. So I'll leave this here because it did have its charm. It did have quite a few moments in there. The boxing fight scene is hilarious, and I don't mean the one in the beginning. I mean Julius versus Jason is hilarious to me. There's just a lot of greatness. The toxic waste drowning in there in Toronto, New York. Um, that's what I like about it. I mean, there wasn't much as far as characters go. There were some entertaining bits here and there. Like, I wish the rocker chick hadn't been killed so early. I think the film nerd should have just focused on her instead of carrying water for the mean girl. But then we wouldn't have some of the kills and plot devices that we had in here. So we'll keep this here. It was entertaining. It wasn't boring, but it was bad. So we'll put this one right here. All right, the OG. Now this one has a special place in my heart. So it's going to be ranked pretty high. I don't know if I'll put it top points of the franchise, even though it's the one that started it all. It's the peak because there are sequels that are better than it, but I still think it's a really good slasher with a decent whodunit. So we are going to put this here at Ginny. I may change it, but for now we'll keep it here. So that's where that one kind of goes. Let me just readjust just in case it's brought up or down by this category getting one. But so I do think it's really good. I find it to be a really good slasher. I don't think it's the best of the franchise. I used to delusionally, like most people do when they're younger, but I don't think this is the best of the franchise. But I think it's good enough to at least be either ranked Ginny or the Three Toms. All right, so this one was kind of in order. That's okay. Part two. I'm going to put it under Ginny. I'm going to put it there too because it's a really good movie. There are others of the franchise that are better than it. So I don't think it should go up here. It does feature the best final girl. I do believe the pacing is better in part two than part one. But there are differences, and there's a higher body count, as you would think. So yeah, there's that. So we've got part five. Part five, it's not great. It's not a good movie. I'll put it. It was entertaining. I'll put it under damn enchiladas because not because it's a line from the movie, but because of the fact that they're really good side characters. It's a fun watch. I take away points from the fact that I don't like how the director handled a lot of stuff, especially how he shot any sex scenes or nudity scenes. When you hear about it, it's kind of creepy. But the side characters are hilarious, especially Ethel. Great side characters. I did not like the direction of the film, but as far as the nudity on there, but I do think that it's entertaining, even if it's one of the lesser movies of the franchise. Next, next up is Jason X. I swear I randomized these. Jason X. You know what? For a time waster, it's actually not too bad. It's got David Cronenberg. I'll put it in the middle of the pack, mostly because it's ridiculous. It's another early 2000s style horror film. So it's got all the tropes of that, the fashion of that and stuff, but it's funny. It doesn't take itself seriously. It's very self aware. It's not great. It's a low point of the franchise, but I think it's better than these two, and it's definitely better than Goes to Hell. Um, so that's kind of where I'm going to rank these. Now, I believe I forget which director. Either one of these two is actually going to be in a con near me, along with Kane Hodder. So I'm excited for that. Like in a couple of weeks, actually, in 2 weeks, I'm actually going to the New Jersey Horror Con and to get the autograph of Kane Hodder for my Friday the 13th book that I use as an autograph book. So we got that. Next up, Friday the 13th Part 3, which is known as the one where Jason got his mask. That's what it's famous for. It's got an interesting cast of characters. I honestly don't think the Friends should have. Um, I don't think the Friends should have been as eclectic as they were. It just didn't feel like they matched. But it's iconic for the mask, so it's okay. It's not. I wouldn't put it in these two. I would probably put it in one of these two. I'm gonna put it here because no, you know what? I'll put it here for the three Tommies. It's good. Um, it's good. Like it doesn't not one of these top two tiers, but it's here. It's got its flaws. They kind of insinuated certain things about Jason and the final girl. They really didn't follow through, which was due to the actress being Mormon and not wanting to be involved in a storyline like that. So that kind of hurt. I'm not complaining that that's why the narrative was changed or obscured. I just think they should have taken it out completely, that part of it out completely, if they were going to not include those key details. All right, the remake. You know what? I'm going to put this next to Jason X. It's entertaining. It's got a really douchey boyfriend in there, which is kind of hilarious at some points. It's got high points and low points. It's a again late 2000s horror remake. It's definitely better than the Freddy one. Um, so yeah, we've got that, and that's going to go there. Two more. Actually, there's less up there than I thought there'd be. All right, so we've got Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. I I'm gonna just put that right there. It is one of the best movies in the franchise. After the sleaze, that was Part 5, and just the stuff that happened behind the scenes. In Part 5, the director actually fired someone for not going on a date with him, and again, it was a sleazy set. Whereas this one was a like they were almost like one big family. It was a very professional set. It's actually the best looking film to this point as far as how it was shot. It was shot like an actual movie, not like a B movie for Paramount to make a quick buck on. This one actually, of all of the films in the Paramount era of the franchise, this one looks like a professionally shot film. It introduces Zombie Jason. It has like this self-aware, tongue-in-cheek humor, really good editing jokes, really good jokes done by the editing. Just a lot of it is so good. It's the best Tommy Jarvis. I know a lot of people are preferential to Corey Feldman because Corey Feldman is more of a star, but I think Tom Matthews is the best of the Tommy Jarvises, and he's even showing that in the sequel in the like fan made movies, Never Hike Alone and Never Hike in the Snow and Never Hike Alone too. So I do think this just has all the right things going for it, just like Part 4 had all the right things going for it. So now the last one, Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. Now this is the first one since they ended the Tommy sequel, and they had a couple things they wanted to do with this film. One of the original ideas was actually someone was going to start building kind of housing in the Camp Crystal Lake area, which is actually kind of referenced in Freddy versus Jason during the big fight between Freddy and Jason in the real world at Crystal Lake. Um, I, I do like that the Crystal Lake is in there. It's kind of weird that it takes such a long drive. Uh, they make it look so quickly, but that's neither here nor there. So this was supposed to be Jason killing people involved with like the developing in the land and whoever else is in Jason's way. They changed it. I'm pretty sure it was kind of an effort. Just let's do Jason versus Carrie without it actually being Carrie because copyright. So they made a not Carrie on this one. Um, Now, this one's an interesting one to me. This one it's called Friday the 13th because of the largely gay cast. Um, it's plagued by a couple things. John Carl Buechler was the director. He didn't do a bad job. This is the first one to feature Kane Hodder as Jason. Um, probably the best run of Jason's. It has Terry Kaiser in there as the scientist or the professor, the psychiatrist, not scientist. Sorry, of the main character. He is known for the Weekend at Bernie's movies as the titular Bernie. He was the doctor in Tammy and the T Rex, which is always a fun drunk movie to watch. Um, in a lot of other, he was in an episode of, he was in Murder She Wrote. He was H.G. Wells in Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman. He's been in a lot. So he plays the psychiatrist of Tina, the main character. Um, let's see. Is there anyone else of note in here? That might be the only other one of note. I know Laura Park Lincoln plays the main one, and she was from House 2, which I believe Kane Hodder also actually worked on, if I recall correctly. Let's see. So, but she's known, for being in the Friday the 13th movie. She was in 13th Fan, or yeah, no, she was actually in the same one as Kane Hodder, which is kind of funny actually. But yeah, Kane Hodder was also the stunt coordinator for House 2. Kane Hodder, by all means, I don't think we need to actually go into what he's been in. He did stunts. He played Leatherface in the third Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. He did motion capture for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He was in parts 7, 8, Goes to Hell, and Jason X. Uh, and he was also he also did stuff for the game as well. He's also known as Victor Crowley in the Hatchet series. He's been in a lot, and he's done a lot of like him playing someone so they can market it as, uh, you know, Kane Hodder being in the film. Uh, what else was he in? Was there anything? That's right. There was also an Ed Gein movie he was in. He was in Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. He was in The Devil's Rejects as an officer in a gas mask on the left, is what they credit him for, which is funny to me. Um, he's a horror veteran. He is horror royalty. So just he's great. And I like his this again was the start of one of the best runs. That's right. He was an alligator as well. So it starts the best run of Jason. So this it will probably be ranked a little higher than it should be. Like I said, this is one of the many that was butchered by the MPAA for cuts. A lot of kills that were cut short and thus look weird by comparison. So you know what? I'm gonna put this on Carrie versus Jason because this is actually legitimately as opposed to some of the other ones. This category was named because when I think of a fun idea, execution didn't match the idea. I think Carrie versus Jason, the category got that name because this is the film I think of when it comes to fun idea, bad execution, or so-so execution. And it didn't help that the lead Tina and the guy who played the love interest, didn't really have good chemistry. But it had decent enough side characters, and someone playing the mean girl character who just owned it. She was so good as the like a-hole of the party. So this is my Friday the 13th tier ranking. Subscribe at Cinematic PhD on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitch, just follow me for now because I can't actually, I'm still not an affiliate. But yeah, do that. My socials, it's the same thing, Cinematic PhD. Again, follow the video, hit like on there, and have a good one, guys.